Some crazy details are emerging about Ivan Demidov and some new concerns about his Russian team that has the Habs probably leaning Kaiden, Lindstrom over him. But if they both go, apparently the Habs may take a defenseman like Zane Parekh. We have to get into this crazy draft news from Arber and Basu and the implications it has. Plus, a big update on the next NHL salary cap and how it can really help the Montreal Canadiens moving forward. All that coming up on this episode of Habs Digest, so we're going to jump straight into it, Jesse. And we got to start with the salary cap. And this is huge, not only for the Habs, but for the whole NHL. Now, Cap Friendly tweeted this out, and we actually got some sad news about Cap Friendly. One of the top salary cap website got bought by the Washington Capitals today and will be shut down in early July, so we'll have to find another website. But regardless, they tweeted this out saying the salary cap ceiling for next season will be $88 million. That's a jump of a few $1 million, Jesse, with the midpoint 76.5, floor 65 million. And this has some big implications for the Habs. We know the Habs have some big contracts like Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher. We know some extensions are due for Cayden, Guhle, Juraj, Slafkovsky, and probably Arber, Xhekaj at some point. But this is amazing. Not only does it give the Habs a bit more flexibility on someone like a Slav or a Guhle for a long-term extension, it also makes other teams more able to absorb a contract like a Josh Anderson. And to top it all off, it means that Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield's contracts look even better going forward. This is just some of the best news we could have heard as Habs fans.
Take that, Bergevin. We needed some help, and we finally got it. This is actually going to be big for this team, though, because we know this is one of the major things holding this team back. We have so much money invested in some players where, maybe in Gallagher where, you could argue that he worked for that money, but we're giving so much money to other players where we're not necessarily getting that return on investment back, right? So to take this team to the next level, this is the perfect timing. We know that Slav is due for a contract soon, our next crop of young stars, and Guhle as well. So this is just perfect for this team and is one of the most important missing pieces really to help, this group take the next step.
Yeah, it's really crazy because I know it's not like a huge leap, but all things considered, it gives a lot of teams a lot of flexibility, right? Teams that were once cap strapped now have a few extra million to play with. Some teams will probably look to do it in free agency, but like we said, it gives some teams flexibility to take on some bad contracts if they can get a pick along with it. There's a ton of doors that are open for this, but I'm really excited to see what this means for Slav's contract, Guhle's contract, all this stuff moving forward. So yeah, really exciting update, but we got to move into the real juicy stuff, Jesse. And before we do, I'm just going to ask everyone watching right now to hit that subscribe button. Haven't asked you guys in a while, but over half the people watching aren't subscribed. We got daily Habs news. This is the spot to be, just like this. The Habs prefer Lindstrom over Demidov, but not only that, Jesse, there are some new concerns with Demidov, and I'll start with the quote about how they prefer Lindstrom first. So it's Arber and Basu in his recent article for The Athletic that I will link down below. Go give it a read. There's a lot of great draft combine stuff, but he said in the unlikely event that both of Lindstrom and Demidov survive the first 4 picks, I would guess, and that is just a guess, that the Canadiens would lean towards taking Lindstrom. But a big reason for that, Jesse, is the new update on Demidov. He said there's some doubt about whether his style will translate to playoff hockey. They were given examples like Pastrnak and Marner, who had difficulty in the playoffs this year. But not only that, there's a real sense, and not just from the Canadiens, that SKA likes Demidov, that's of course his KHL team, and would like to play for them. Numerous conversations with scouts and team officials at the Combine confirmed the Demidov situation is a total wild card. Now, where have we heard this before, Jesse? I'm starting to get a little worried. This sounds a lot like last year at this point. There are always concerns. There's always a Russian factor over a player, but now we're also hearing some concerns about his play style. I don't know if this is just smoke and mirrors to psych out some other teams, but I don't totally mind the idea the Habs would pick Lindstrom over him. Now, I'm sure if it was just one of them available, it'd make it easier. If they're both not available, we'll get to that a bit later. We'll talk about their possibilities of that. But what are your thoughts on this kind of new revelation about Demidov and some of the new concerns that we're seeing?
This is really heating up right now, right? On the pod, we talked about it just recently. We like to aim for the stars here at Habs Digest. We're saying if both Demidov and Lindstrom are available to us at 5, who are we picking, right? There's major pros to both, I know Demidov is getting some smoke here a little bit, Josh, but I don't know if it's fully warranted. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like Ivan Demidov is like this Panarin kind of type player. It's like, of course, Panarin great in the regular season. He's just getting some knocks right now saying that he wasn't so great in, later rounds of that playoff run. But for me, Demidov isn't just that pure skill guy. He has it. Mm-hmm. He's a skill guy, but the thing about him is he plays defense. Like, he competes. For me, that's what separates him from a Michkov, right? Like, that would be amazing. Like, having your cake and eating it too. Having that skill, but then also a guy that competes. So I'm not saying that he's Panarin, but it's still a fair point that we know, like the Lindstrom types of the world, the Matthew Tkachuks, I hate to say it, but obviously these are the type of players we know are effective in the playoffs. It's a safe kind of bet, if the Habs are planning really about the playoffs, you could argue, okay, that's maybe the safer route. And you really want to win when it matters, and of course you need to get there first. But I don't, it's hard to say, right? Because I don't believe Demidov is just that skilled guy, right? So I don't think we can just cast him just as that right yet.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point as well. Right now, some of the concerns are that he's like average height. He's an average skater. He's not going to blow your mind with his skating. He will blow your mind with his pure skill and his creativity. But there are some parts of his game that definitely need to evolve. We'll probably see them evolve because his point production, like a lot of metrics, have him as like a legit star level talent at the NHL based on a lot of models that are available now. But you're very right. Like, it's weird though, because on the one hand, we know the type of player that at least, more often than not succeeds at the playoff level. A guy like a Lindstrom, right? One of these big guys, big skilled guys, might take him a couple of years to develop. That's what we're fully expecting with a guy like Cayden Lindstrom. I saw some people saying playing with Dach right away, right? Two guys who can both play center, take faceoffs on their strong and weak side. Great. I feel like he'll take a couple of years to develop. We don't really know, of course, injury history, whatever, but we know if he develops into what we want, he'll be good in the playoffs. It's almost a certainty. Demidov, it's like, could he end up on that Pasternak-Marner route? He could be amazing. On the other hand, right, he could just be phenomenal. He could be like a Kucherov-level guy who just gets a ton of points no matter what, right? Now, Kucherov's a much better playmaker, I think, than Demidov, but Demidov's definitely not bad on that front either. But you're very right. There's a lot of interesting concerns here and there, and I want to hear everyone's thoughts down below. Who would you pick between Lindstrom and Demidov, especially knowing these new little details? But it might not just be that, Jesse, because there's a real chance that both these guys are gone by the Habs pick. And Arben kind of went into that as well. And we were thinking Habs are going to trade the pick. That's kind of the vibe we got from Kent Hughes. We'll take the best player available, but if there's no forward, it sure seemed like he was going to trade it. Might not be the case. Check out this quote. He said, in the equally unlikely event that neither of Demidov or Lindstrom is available, I think the Canadiens would lean towards taking a defenseman. He said they probably wouldn't trade down using that pick. And he went on to say, I think both Ziv Boyum and Zane Parekh would be considered at number 5, though it's difficult to handicap which one would be preferred. Now, both these guys, Jesse, as Arpen says in his article, great puck-moving defensemen, while Lane Hutson has that ability as well. We got to wait and see what he'll be at the NHL level, but no one else really on the Habs current roster has that. I suppose Matheson a bit, but Boyum and Parekh, great prospects. But I found it kind of surprising that, like, these could legit be guys, right? Like, they're left-handed. I think they're both left-handed. I'm actually not sure. I have to double check that. I'm pretty sure Z Boyum is. Yeah. But still, regardless, Parekh might be right. But still, it's very interesting to me that the Habs, seemingly, according to Basu, are almost certainly not going to trade that pick, and they would just take a defenseman, taking best player available. I don't hate that. I actually kind of like that. I feel like I've been one of the guys saying, look, I wouldn't hate taking a defenseman if it's clearly the best guy available. What do you think? Would you trade this pick? Because it certainly seems like the Habs are not in a position to do so.
I would not trade this pick in the devastating case that both Lindstrom and Parekh, were not available. I know that can be devastating for Habs fans. We're getting deja vu of last year when they're expecting to pick a forward, really an audible being in that case. But we know, like, when it comes to trades, when it comes to the NHL, the best player wins. And we know if this happens, right, we can still trade this player in the future for what we need. It might take a while, right? But you can still cash in, but in order to make those trades, to get solid players, you need that quality in the first place. That's the premise. That's the first thing that you really need to do first, right? So, I know that you've been big on Parekh for a while. I know that's been your boy. You liked his game.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, obviously, we see that how moving the puck in the NHL, like at an elite level, how important that is. That is a huge thing, right? So, even if that is the case, I'm not worried about our ability and Kent Hughes' ability rather to really find a top 6 for this team that can score. And everything else is, you only got so many spots. I believe in that, whether it's drafting it, whether it's going through free agency, right? That's yet to be determined, right? We're really hoping that we do get a chance at either one of these two players. But if not, I think there is a lot of sound logic with going with the best player that is available.
Yeah, I think you're right. I straight up love Zane Parekh. I think there are definitely some risks with his game, but he has that game-breaking offensive ability. Some people say he's small. I know a lot of people in the comments don't like him nearly as much as I do, is what it is. I think Zane Boyum actually probably projects as a much more solid player long-term. I think he is just an awesome, awesome prospect, but the Habs love them both. I'd be very interested to see either, but like you said, Jesse, the Habs can probably get another top 6 guy somewhere through some other means. It's definitely better if you draft them, but if, say, Lindstrom and Demidov are both gone, I've heard Buffalo's pick at number 11's on the table, so is New Jersey's at number 10. Now, they're both looking for legit NHL talent at this point. Don't think the Habs quite have what it would take to get those picks, but taking a defenseman is definitely not off the table. What do you guys think? Would you take a defenseman? We've asked this question a ton of times, but now there's a real report saying the Habs very well could do it if the draft falls a certain way. We're just kind of going to have to wait till draft night. Hey, don't forget, we're going to be live for draft night. I'm going to keep reminding you guys every single draft video, well, almost every single draft video heading up to the draft, because we want you guys to share this with us. We want you to share the Habs experience with us here at Habs Digest. So mark it on your calendars. We will be live for it, but we'd love to hear from you down below, but that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for all your support as of late. I've been Josh Gosse, for my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.